Notice to the public. If you wish to address the council, please complete the public wishing to address the council form located on the table near the entrance into the building and give it to either the chairman or the council clerk prior to the beginning of the meeting. Individuals addressing the council should be respectful of others in their choice of words and actions. Thank you. All cell phones, pagers, and electronic devices used for communication should be silenced for the duration of the meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Budget and Finance Committee, March 8th, 2021. We will have the invocation and pledge of allegiance by Councilwoman Jessica Domingue. Please rise.
Loving and gracious God, help us keep the common good before us. Strengthen our gifts of wisdom, courage, and respect for the views of others. Strengthen us to continue to work with our leaders, seeking an ever more just society that acts in harmony and interdependence with all creation. In the name of Jesus, in union with your Spirit, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Hampton, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Michel?
Here.
Mr. Amade?
Here.
Ms. Domingue?
Here.
Mr. Darren Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Babin?
Here.
Mr. Dirk Guidry? Mr. Trusclair?
Here.
Mr. Navy?
Here.
Mr. Harding?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you, sir. Item 1, resolution authorizing the parish president to renew and execute a contractual agreement for professional medical services between Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and Haydale Family Practice, a professional medical corporation, and its physicians, namely Richard M. Haydale, M.D., Scott A. Haydale, M.D., and J. Matthew Watkins, M.D., for medical service to be rendered to the Terrebonne Parish Criminal Justice Complex as the facilities physicians. Moved by Mr. Michel, seconded by Mr. Babin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, resolution authorizing the parish president to renew and execute a contractual agreement for professional medical services between Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and William K. Lowe, M.D., for psychiatrist services to be rendered to the Terrebonne Parish Criminal Justice Complex as the facilities psychiatrist. Moved by
Dirk, second by
Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded by Mr. Darren Guidry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, resolution authorizing the parish president to renew and execute a contractual agreement for professional medical services between the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and Haydale Family Practice, a professional medical corporation, and its physicians, namely Richard M. Haydale, M.D., and Scott Haydale, M.D., for medical services to be rendered to the Terrebonne Parish Juvenile Justice Complex as the facilities physicians.
Second.
Move Mr. Babin, second Mr. Michel. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4. Resolution concurring with the recommendation of the parish administration to approve the replacement of damaged and deteriorated sewer lines in the criminal justice complex by Peterson Plumbing, Video Drain, and Sewer Service. Who moved? Steve? Steve moved. Who second?
I'll second.
Darren. Mr. Darren Guidry seconded. See no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, resolution concurring with the recommendation of the parish administration to approve the state contract purchase and installation of mobile TICS camera systems for the Public Works Department, Ford's Drainage Division. Move Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded Mr. Babin. Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, resolution concurring with parish administration to approve the purchase of a Ford F-250 crew cab and a Ford Expedition SSV from Terrebonne Ford through the Louisiana State contract numbers 4400016601 and 440000187888 for the Public Works Transit Division. Move Mr. Babin. Second Mr. Trusclair. Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, resolution accepting the recommendation of administration and the Risk Management Department to accept the attached schedule of casualty insurance premiums effective April 1st, 2021 to April 1st, 2022.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Darren Guidry. Second by Mr. Babin. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 8, resolution accepting the recommendation of administration and the Risk Management Department to accept the attached schedule of casualty insurance premiums, VFIS policy, for Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government Home of Fire Department for April 1st, 2021 to April 1st, 2022. Moved by Mr. Michel, seconded by Mr. Babin. Or was it Mr. Carley? I'm sorry. Mr. Harding. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 9, a resolution authorizing Gordon E. Dove, Parish President, to execute the engagement letter agreement between Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and Abraham Marshal, LLC.
Second.
Who moved? Mr. Trosclair, seconded by Mr. Darren Guidry. Mr. Gerald Michel.
I'm just gonna read a prepared. I'm gonna just read my prepared thoughts, okay? This is why I disagree with increasing the pay for parish attorney. While the parish attorney is responsible for representing the interests of Terrebonne Parish government, administration, and the parish council, he has shown that his primary concern is to represent parish administration. Here's why. The parish attorney has expressed an opinion to limit discussions on ordinances when they are introduced at committee meetings, thus hindering the public's and the council's ability to express their opinions on said ordinances at that time. The very purpose of committee meetings is to promote discussions and to gather input in order to enhance the efficiency and productivity at the regular council sessions. The practice of these committee meeting discussions has served the council well for years. Secondly, the parish attorney has expressed an opinion that the council members, who he's also supposed to be representing, should be required to file public records requests when getting information from parish administration. Council members are part-time positions with limited staff resources. The sheer volume of information needed to stay informed is extensive. Any barrier to information for a council member increases the difficulty of staying informed and being able to make the best decisions for their constituents and for Terrebonne Parish. To my knowledge, this has also never been done with any previous administration. And thirdly, not necessarily lastly, but all I'm going to talk about this evening is the parish attorney has expressed an opinion that the Terrebonne Parish Council is not allowed to have their own legal representation, even when the council's interests and the desires for parish administration are conflicted. The council, which is the legislative branch of government, serves as the checks and balances for Terrebonne Parish. There will always be issues where the intent and wishes of each body differ. Independent legal representation for the council would only produce the best possible results for the citizens of Terrebonne Parish in the rare instances where the interests of the council and the parish administration diverge. Secondly, while it is arguable that the $127 an hour is a low hourly rate in today's legal climate, the number of hours billed has been extremely high. A raise from $127 to $150 is well over a 10% increase. It's estimated that the amount of annual legal fees has doubled during the tenure of the current parish attorney from previous attorneys. This represents dollars into the millions. I think it would be prudent to seek out other proposals for our legal resources from qualified sources to ensure that we are providing the taxpayers of Terrebonne with the best and most efficient legal representation available. This is just a random request, and it's an example of the desire to pay more to a few, while the pandemic, the oil bust, and unemployment are allowing the many to continue to suffer. While parish employees would greatly benefit from a raise, we haven't even budgeted the needed 5%. Yet we are considering a 10+% for the parish attorney. Perhaps as a parish government, we need to revisit our priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michel. Any more discussion? Mr. Babin.
Yeah, I agree with a lot what Mr. Michel just said, and I'm struggling with this. And it's nothing personal. I'm just struggling with, I think it's more like an 18% raise, if I'm not mistaken. I'm struggling that our parish employees cannot get a raise. And yet, we just approved Dr. Haydell and them, and I didn't see any raise for them. And I understand, as Gerald just said, that the $127 is low compared to other places all around. But I also think that this past year has been a pretty extraordinary year. And I don't know, again, a lot of departments in Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government were cut this past year. Every department had to take a cut. And we lost personnel in some particular cases, so we're behind on that. I don't know, I really, Gerald probably encapsulated it as much as I can. I'm just struggling at this point in time for a raise. It's not the idea that I'm against a raise, it's at this point in time. So, I don't know, that's all I have to say right now.
Thank you, Mr. Babin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
2 nays. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
could I address something?
Yes, sir.
I would just like to tell y'all thank you. This is the effects. This is just not for me. This is on the non-litigation part. When I first came in, the rates were at 105, 127. I asked the parish president, I said, it's got to be raised because looking at what the AG pays and other people pay, LaFouche and other people. And so the only thing I ask is that y'all bring up the non-litigation part to 150, and this affects a lot of people. That's first time in 6 years. And just want everybody to know that we're under contract. I don't get in the office. I pay for all the personnel. We pay all the lawyers, pay our own overhead. So it's much different. And I just want to tell y'all, thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Hebert. I see Mr. Marshall in the audience. You have any comments, sir?
No, sir, thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Moving up, Mr. Michel.
Can I make one more comment about this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess my question now that this is passed is, are you gonna pass along some of this to the associates who are getting pennies on a dollar, that sounds nice, but who are getting a much, much, much smaller amount of money than is being paid to your firm?
Mr. Michel, I think you could probably entertain a meeting with them and get that answer from him.
You know, I
Thank
think
you.
I think the public should know, but hey, look, if they don't wanna answer, I certainly understand. I definitely understand. Thank you.
Mr. Babin.
Yes, correct me if I'm wrong, Jules, if a parish assistant attorney is doing work for you, or you give them work, they bill directly to our financial department. It's not billed to Hebert and Hebert pays them. Am I correct?
Outside attorneys bill directly. The outside attorneys, such as Vince DeGate,
Correct.
Craig Landry,
Tana
State
McGee.
Representative Tana McGee,
Fairchild.
Fairchild, Gary Williams, all billed direct to the parish. That's not my it's not the people from my firm.
Correct, and that's why I wanted to clarify that. That's not going through Hebert and Marshal and then being paid to them. That is going directly to those particular attorneys. Okay.
That is correct.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Babin. Mr. Darren Guidry.
Yeah, and I just wanted to comment that I spoke with Mr. Dove, and this is just an adjustment in the hourly rate. We still have a budgeted amount, and we're going to do everything possible to stay within the budgeted amount and prioritize legal wherever we can. And I'm going to do the same thing within the parish council and within our budget for legal as well. And I just wanted to mention that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Darren. Mr. Michel, third time.
Just for my final comment regarding what Councilman Babin said, but the attorneys who work within the firm of Hebert and Marshal who are not partners are the ones who I was speaking of. I know that the ones who outside bill themselves and get the full amount, but the ones who are working within is getting considerably less, if my understanding is accurate. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. Thank you.
Thank you for your clarification, Mr. Babin.
And again, that's proprietary to Mr. Abear. Whatever, these people went to work for him, all right? So if he's charging this and paying it, all the employees in our company don't make the same amount of money, okay? And I'm not trying to go back and forth on this. I just wanted to clarify, when we talk about assistant parish attorneys that are outside of the Abear and Marshal firm, they do not bill Jules Abear, they bill Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, and they're paid directly from Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Item number 10, resolution declaring a boat, cell phones, CPUs, printers, laptops, and other various miscellaneous items from various departments and divisions having a value of less than $5,000 as surplus and authorizing said items to be disposed of by any legally approved methods.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Babin. Second, Mr. Trosclair. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 11, resolution declaring 2 vehicles from the City Marshal's office and 1 vehicle from the Purchasing Department having a value of less than $5,000 each as surplus and authorizing said vehicles to be disposed of by any legal approved methods. I'm sorry, who moved? Mr. Trosclair, seconded by Mr. Harding. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 12, introduce an ordinance declaring 7 vehicles from the Houma Police Department having a value of $5,000 each as surplus and authorizing said items to be disposed of by any legal approved methods and calling a public hearing on said matter on March 24, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Move, Mr. Darren Guidry. Second, Ms. Jessica Domingue. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 13, introduce an ordinance declaring 2 vehicles, units 370 and 363, from the City Marshal's office having a value of $7,000 each as surplus and authorizing said items to be disposed of by any legal methods approved and calling a public hearing on Wednesday, March 24th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Move, Mr. Babin. Second, Mr. Darren Guidry. Mr. Trosclair has light.
Yeah, Mike, we got like 11 vehicles between the city marshal and the Houma Police Department that we're surplusing out. Have those vehicles already been replaced, or are they just not needed in service anymore?
I believe it's a little of both, Mr. Trosclair.
Okay, because I mean, 9 vehicles at one time. That's a lot of vehicles for law enforcement,
Well, we've been replacing them, as we need them.
and they just been sitting there. We just doing this as a group deal.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 14, introduce an ordinance to authorize the parish president to execute a lease agreement with 3JM Properties LLC and McIntyre Enterprises LLC and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, March 24, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Move, Mr. Trosclair. Second, Mr. Darren Guidry. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 15, introduce an ordinance to amend the 2021 adopted operating budget and 5-year capital outlay budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Houma Police Department, $5,000. State Flood Control Program, Bayou Terrebonne Dredging, $7,649,110. 118 Drainage Pump Station, $35,000. Bayou Country Sport Park, $105,000. General Fund Government Towers Parking Lot Paving, $65,000. Houma Downtown Development, $60,448. Transit, $14,000. CARES Act Homeless Shelter, $1,093,800. Bayou Black Pump Station, $550,000. And call a public hearing on said matter March 24th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Moved by Ms. Jessica Domingue, seconded by Mr. Darren Guidry. Mr. John Navy has a light.
Yes, actually, this is Candace. Candace, the $1 million to the homeless shelter, is that reimbursement or that's additional something that the homeless shelter is going to be doing differently?
Aaron?
So, Mr. Navy, I will tell you that this is additional funding that is coming in to the homeless shelter related to CARES Act. I am not 100% sure if it's new activity or reimbursement and all. I think Kelly Cunningham with the Housing and Human Services Director probably will be able to answer that question for you a little bit more. But it is new money coming in, so we'll be able to increase some of our services that way. It's not a reimbursement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Navy. Seeing no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion adjourned.
Motion adjourned, Mr. Guidry.
Second.
Second, Mr. Michel, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Notice to the public, if you wish to address the council, please complete the public wish to address the council form located on the table near the entrance to the building and give it to either the chairman or the council clerk prior to the beginning of the meeting. Individuals addressing the council should be respectful of others in their choice of words and actions. Also, all phone, pages, and electronic devices used for communication should be silenced for the duration of the meeting. I'd like to call the Public Service Committee meeting of March 8, 2021 to order, and we'll have an invocation and a pledge of allegiance by Mr. Carl E. Harding. Please rise.
Heavenly Father, it's a wonderful thing to give recognition to you, O God, only because you let a little simple, humble person such as I to have an opportunity to stand before men, women, boys, and girls, knowing that you are God and God by yourself. We ask that your Holy Spirit get within our souls, O God, that we have love that go from heart to heart and breath to breath, O God, that we accomplish the matters and the affairs of Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, and most certainly have the people of Terrebonne Parish first in our minds. We ask that you bless us in your darling Son, Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Hampton, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Michel? Mr. Amade? Ms. Domingue?
Here.
Mr. Darren Guidry? Mr. Babin? Mr. Dirk Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Trosclair? Mr. Navy? Mr. Harding? Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you, Keith. Item 1, discussion and update from the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness relative to COVID-19 and any pertinent public information. Mr. Hughes?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Earl Hughes, 101 Government Boulevard, Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. Before I start off on the COVID report, I just want to make an announcement that so far 870 residents have registered for assistance through the Hurricane Zeta FEMA disaster assistance with an average assistance of $4,197 per applicant. The important thing to remember is the last day to register for assistance for Hurricane Zeta through FEMA is this coming Monday, March 15th. So any resident that needs, that hasn't filed for disaster assistance and would like to file, they have till March 15th to make that, that filing. Under the COVID report, as of today, we have 9,666 positive cases within Terrebonne parishes. Parish number of tests, we had 111,842 COVID tests performed to date. The good news is our percent positivity is down to 4.2. If you remember last week it was 6.6, and 2 weeks ago it was 10.6. That is a very good improvement. If we can stay below the 5%, for Wednesday they're going to announce the next percent positivity. If it is below 5%, the bars within our parish will be able to open indoor occupancy to 50%. So that'll be a good thing if that occurs. Number of deaths so far in the parish is 189 within the last 2 weeks. So since I reported to you guys, we've had 6 deaths. The number of presumed recovered out of the 9,666 positive cases, those that have recovered is 9,036, which leaves about 630 positive cases walking around Terrebonne Parish at this time. The number of cases have gone down. Last week it was about 118 cases. 2 weeks ago it was 217. And then 3 weeks ago it was about 117. But I would like to remind everybody that our highest case week was 714 cases in 1 week. That was during January 3rd through January the 8th. So we've come a long way from the 714 cases down to 118. Just as a reminder, March 13th of 2020 was our first case in Terrebonne Parish. So this Saturday, which was March 13th, will be a year that we had our first case here in Terrebonne Parish. Under the number of deaths, this past week we had 2. 2 weeks ago there was 8 deaths, and 3 weeks ago there was 2 deaths. So under the death statistics, in the black deaths, we have 28 females, 24 males for a total of 52. It's about 0.04% of our population in Terrebonne Parish. White deaths, there's 72 females, 60 males, a total of 132, which is about 0.12% of our population in Terrebonne Parish. Under the other, which is Asian and Hispanic, we have a total of 5, which is about 0.004% of our parish population. Total deaths in Terrebonne Parish is at 189. And then under the case statistics, under the black cases, there's 2,220, which is about 10.4% of the black population and about 2% of the parish population. On the white cases, it's 5,812, 7.39% of the white population, 5.24% of the parish population. Under the other, there's 941 cases. It's about 8.54% of the other population and about 0.85 within the percentage of the parish population. Deaths by age, less than 18 is 1, 18 to 29 is 1, 30 to 39 is 2, 40 to 49 is 3, 50 to 59 is 11, 60 to 69 is 35. Our 2 biggest groups are the 70 to 79, which we have 52 deaths, and 80 to 89, which we have 60 deaths, and then from 90 to 99, we have 24 deaths. The youngest is still a day old. The oldest is still 99. This past 2 weeks, we had our first death in the 18 to 29 category within Terrebonne Parish. Nursing home assisted living deaths, we still have 78 of those out of the 190, 89. That's about 43.8%. Hospitalizations have gone down tremendously. The last 4 weeks ago, the average of COVID cases within the hospital was 28.5 patients per day. We're down to 10 this past week on number of COVID patients in the hospital per day. Number of vaccines that have been allocated within Terrebonne Parish, the closest number I could get from the LDH was about 28,000 vaccines have been distributed within Terrebonne Parish. Total throughout the state is 1.2 million doses as of last Thursday. Of that, 448,730 have completed their doses. Either they got 1 shot of Johnson & Johnson or they got their 2 doses for Moderna and the Pfizer. The presumed number of cases recovered in Louisiana is 415,954. Of that, there's about 18,335 active cases right now in the state of Louisiana. We had a vaccination, community vaccination in Mechanicville last week. We had 63 participants participate, and this week there will be a community vaccination on Wednesday at Beacon Light Baptist Church from 9 a.m. to noon. And then once again, Terrebonne General is doing their vaccinations throughout the week. People can register at call in Terrebonne General at 873-4686. And that is my final report, sir. End of my report.
Mr. Biden?
As far as the vaccines and Terrebonne General and every other one that's given out, there's no problem with the flow of the vaccines coming in?
Not at the present time. In fact, if there is any issue, it's not enough people are registering to get the vaccine.
Okay.
So we need people to register with Terrebonne General, go to even Shawberry Medical Center. You can call them. They can give you the vaccine. Walmart, Sam's, all the pharmacies, they're begging people to please go in and register to get vaccines.
And the Johnson & Johnson has been distributed and given here in Terrebonne Parish?
We have given some. There was only 32,000 doses that were distributed within Louisiana, and we were notified by the state that, Johnson & Johnson notified the state that they would not get another batch of Johnson & Johnson until the first week of April. So there's going to be a lax in that distribution.
So we need people to start signing up to get their shots, is what you're saying?
We do. It's very important that people get their vaccinations and to register.
Thank you, Earl.
Ms. Domingue?
Yeah, thank you, Earl, as always. I always appreciate these updates. And whenever I hear numbers like 1 million vaccinations given in Louisiana, that makes me feel good in the fact that we may be able to see the end of this soon. That's a quarter of the residents in the state of Louisiana are vaccinated, or at least partially vaccinated. And so I just want to remind everybody that it's unbelievable that we've survived a year of this, and we've been through a year of this, and we're so resilient because of it, and we're going to come out so much stronger. And sometimes whenever you're kind of in the middle of the trauma, it's really hard to see the end of the tunnel, but I'm starting to see it. We're starting to see it in the clinics. I think we had one COVID test all day today at the clinic I work with. And I just want to remind everybody that we are in this together. We just need to hold on tight. We're almost there. We just need to keep doing what we're doing. And I truly appreciate everything you're doing and everything everyone else is doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Michaud?
You may have already answered this, and if you did, I apologize. I was a little sidetracked. But who can get the shots right now?
Age 55 and older can get the shots, but you have to have one of the underlying medical conditions, which there's quite a few of them under there. And so that's who's available at this time. So, and all those that were before them, the nurses, frontline workers, emergency response personnel, law enforcement, all of that's been continue to get their shots.
So if we're having a little difficulty getting those slots filled, when are we going to drop that bar?
There has been some talk today between the Louisiana Office of Public Health and the governor's office, and they're looking at adding another tier in order to get some arms available for the vaccines. The important thing about making sure we use the federal government will not send us vaccines until you use what you have. So it's important that we open it up, and try to get more people vaccinated so we can get more vaccines in. So I think the governor's office is looking at that right now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Earl.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Amadi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just bouncing off of what Councilwoman Domingue was saying about the state being at about 25%, 28,000 for Terrebonne Parish is also about 25%. So we're trending along with the rest of the state, which is encouraging because so many times the parish down here will sometimes lack a little bit with what the rest of the state's doing. So that's encouraging for me. So again, thank you, Earl, for all that you're doing as well.
Thank you.
And without any further lights, thank you, Earl. And I really think everybody needs to go out and get the shot if we're going to get back to some kind of normalcy in life.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 2, authorizing the execution of change order number 2, contract with Blade Runner Turbo Machinery Services LLC for parish project number 20-ELE Electrogen-23 Homer Generating Station Unit 16 overhaul. Moved by Mr. Babin, second by Mr. Amadi. All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Item 3, authorizing the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government to prepare and submit a pre-application to the statewide flood control program for assistance in the implementation of the Industrial Avenue D13 pump station replacement project for the purpose of reducing existing flood damages, providing for the necessary documentation of said flood damages, and providing for other related matters in connection therewith. Move by Mr. Babin. Second by Mr. Darren Gidry. All in favor? Motion carries. Item 4, authorizing the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government to prepare and submit a pre-application to the statewide flood control program for assistance in the implementation of the Bayou Black Terrebonne Lock Pump Station project for the purpose of reducing existing flood damages, providing for the necessary documentation of said flood damages, and providing for other related matters connection therewith. Moved by Mr. Trosclair, second by Mr. Harding. All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Item 5, authorizing the amendment of number 3 to the agreement with GIS Coastal Design and Engineering for the Ashland Solid Waste Facility Rehab Project. Moved by Mr. Babin, second by Mr. Amadi. All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Item 6, authorizing the execution of change order number 4, final to the construction agreement for parish project number 15 SEW 49 renovations to the Oak Shar and South Down number 2 sewer holding basin projects for an increase of $150,999.44 and an increase of 10 calendar days. Moved by Mr. Gidry, second by Mr. Amadi. All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Item 7, authorize the parish president to enter into an appropriate sub-guarantee agreement with the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness in order to receive funding for an implement for the pre-disaster mitigation elevation program. Moved by Mr. Trosclair. Second by Mr. Harding. All in favor? Motion carries. Item 8, authorizing the parish president, Gordon E. Dove, to sign and negotiate and execute the appropriate agreement with the Planners Design Group, PC, for architectural and engineering services for the implementation of the East Side Public Safety Substation project. Move by Mr. Gerald Michel. Second by Mr. Darren Gidry. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you all, guys. Item 9, authorizing the parish president, Gordon E. Dove, to sign the appropriate agreement with T. Baker Smith, LLC, in order to comply with the Office of Community Development requirements to develop an environmental review board for the East Side Public Safety Substation project. Move by Mr. Trosclair. Second by Mr. Darren Gidry. All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Item 10, authorizing the purchase of mitigation credits from the GWM LLC Mitigation Bank to mitigate a total of 3.7 acres of bottomland hardwoods and 1.98 acres of fresh marsh will be brought from LDNRs in lieu fee of the Valhalla Drainage Improvement Project, identified as project number 18 DRA-53, and authorizing the signing of the agreement for this mitigation as required by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Moved by Mr. Hardy, second by Mr. Gidry. All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Item 11, providing for the acceptance of work performed by River Road Construction Incorporated in accordance with the Certificate of Substantial Completion for Parish Project number 02-DRA-28, Forced Drainage Project 1-1A, State Flood Control, Phase 4, Pump Station Project, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. Moved by Mr. Harding, second by Mr. Amadi. All in favor? Motion carries. Item 12, providing for the acceptance of work performed by Hard Rock Construction LLC in accordance with the Certificate of Substantial Completion for Parish Project Number 18 BRG-52, Industrial Boulevard Bridge Replacement, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. Moved by Mr. Babin, second by Mr. Darren Guidry. All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Item 13, providing approval of amendment number 9 to the engineering agreement for Parish Project Number 16 DRA-26, Chacahula Gibson Drainage Project, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. Moved by Mr. Harding, second by Mr. Darren Guidry. All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Item 14, to revoke the Terrebonne Parish Council Resolution Number 20-359 and to authorize the Parish President, Gordon E. Dove, to execute an intergovernmental agreement on behalf of Terrebonne Consolidated Government to perform the relocation of underground electric utility at the Houma Terrebonne Airport at its sole cost. So Mr. Babin, second by Mr. Guidry. All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Item 15, introduce an ordinance to revise certain portions of Chapter 9, Article 3, Flood Hazard Reduction Sections of the Terrebonne Parish Code of Ordinance and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, March 24, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Moved by Mr. Gerald Michel, second by Mr. Trosclair. Moved by Mr. Trosclair, second by Mr. Michel. All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Item 16 has been pulled. Shall I read that too, Ms. Suzette? Discussion and possible action regarding battery-operated cars and truck track request to be withdrawn from agenda as per committee member John J. Navy. Item 17, discussion and possible action relative to the Department of Public Works following up on the citizens' complaint issues and timeless in responding to complaints. Mr. Harding?
Yes, Mr. David, could you come forward, please, if you don't mind? Previously, we had some discussion in reference to the nature of complaints and how they are received, disseminated, and we were coming up with a system to actually where each member that has a council district and it has complaints coming from their particular district, they can actually follow that complaint or go on our website, and we do provide a service where they can somewhat be followed. And I'd asked Mr. Rome, and we've had some conversation. I talked to Mr. Toops and also talked to Parish President Dove, and how we can actually get this going, because I really love serving not just the people within my district. Whatever my expertise can go forward with relationships with people that work for the consolidated government and the rest of the parish, I would like to see them to be satisfied. But then I find that a lot of people have a lack of knowledge in how the process is being taken care of. And so I want to not only just assure the people within my district that we are operating, but they have to understand there's a time frame that we have to work with. Mr. Rome, please.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, Mr. Harding. And about a year ago, we presented to you the idea of changing out the Public Works work order system. At that time, we had a deadline of April 1st. Shortly thereafter, the little thing called COVID hit, and it greatly set us back for several reasons. First, the company that we're dealing with is through South Central Planning, and they went on a complete lockdown. So we couldn't get them information, and they couldn't process that information to the system. Then as we kind of opened things back up, we couldn't assemble my people for the training in order to use it. I'm happy to say right after Christmas, we were able to launch gravity drainage into that system, and they have been using it. We've been kind of tweaking it and kind of keeping it underneath the radar for a little while. However, last week we invited Mr. Toops to view it, to get his critiques on what the system can do for you as a council person, and we are going to have them come 2 weeks from today and do a presentation for y'all, so y'all can put your input on how y'all feel that this information should be disseminated to y'all. Right now, only Gravity Drainage is using it. We are still in the process of training our roads and bridge people, and those are our first 2 divisions that are going to be using it. Everyone else, that after that will be the pollution control, the sewer department, since they do have some complaints that come from the public. But Gravity Drainage and roads and bridges is well over 70% of our public requests, and we want to be able to give you, the council, Mr. Dove, and the public the ability to see where their complaint is, what's being done, and what happened to it. Mr. Toops got to see 1 month's worth of call requests from Gravity Drainage, and we had around about 200 complaints for 1 month. And I think he was taken back by the sheer volume, and roads and bridges is very close to that number. So our goal is by April 1st to be able to have it in the council and Mr. Dove's hands to be able to see the information, and then shortly thereafter, once we can work out some of the last bugs, the reporting portion of it, give it over to where the public will be able to set up their MyGov account, just like with the permitting department, and be able to track their work order requests that way.
John.
So you have, Mr. Horn?
Yeah, well, John has.
Oh, okay, Mr. Davy?
Yeah, a little bit on the line of what Mr. Harding is also referring to, but I want to say this. Thank you for Tentative being active in any issues, because one of the things that I do notice I don't have to fall back on, if I ask you to address a matter, you go check it out, it gets done.
I appreciate that.
And Mr. Knockin is like that too. The only difference is with him, he actually sent us information that the matter's been addressed, which is that is pretty much checks and balance. I love that the way that process is set up. But and I'm a little concerned about some other matters. And I know I'm driving Suzette crazy, and Suzette is worth $1 million. But, we get issues, we get complaints back that we thought is being taken care of, and it's not. Not necessarily on your end. I think on a lot of matters that things are being dropped, not necessarily by your department. And Suzette has been very active in trying to clean some of that up for me, sending out emails, because I like electronic. If I'm a
paper trail,
right, and if I said I've done something and I send somebody something, I can back it up. I don't just make a phone call. So I electronically either text you all or email you all, and I think that's a good process where we can justify to our constituents that this is what's being done. But even Suzette, I mean, she can contest to this. We having problems that people put in requests and complaints and it's not being addressed, and months later, our residents are calling and saying, look, this is not being done. And I do believe we need a system where if, as a councilman, if we're calling, you all, I know Mr. Doug always says, call, his office or whatever sometimes, but that's not what I call checks and balances. I don't like playing those kind of games. But I would rather call the department and ask for a matter if it's going to be addressed, to get some kind of correspondence back from you all that is actually being taken care of. Because I have taken it for granted on certain matters, thinking something has been done, and it hasn't. And I know I drive Suzette crazy with that. But I like to always say, Suzette, pull out this email where I done sent to you, and even if you got to send this to that resident to show, and I think she did that to me last time. But that is the problem I'm having, especially matters in my district, that it's not being followed, not just by your department. Because you address those matters, but other areas not being addressed, and I think we need some type of system to make sure that that's being done too.
I totally agree with you, Mr. Navy. I think one of the biggest issues that I have is getting the follow-up from my various divisions. So I have close to 15 subdivisions underneath me.
Right.
And so, of course, I wish I was the guy going out there and fixing most of these problems, but I have to send someone an email, and then they have to go and look. And by then, I moved on down the road, and I can't personally follow up. This system will allow us to do that. The other thing that I kind of find that warrants this is sometimes the wrong person is being notified of a problem, right? So let's say if we notify a crew leader that this needs to be done, and they know not to say that's not my job. They're going to take that and they're going to pass it on. That's where some of those lines get blurred at. So I do encourage y'all as a council to contact either myself or the division heads, the superintendents. So that way we know who directly to go to. When we get into talking to the crew leaders and the field techs and all, sometimes their record-keeping process isn't quite as well. Lastly is sometimes we have acted on it, but it may not have been what the person requesting wanted it done.
You're correct.
Okay, so in those cases, you're right. We need a better way of documenting what was done, especially if it was a no action taken because it was private property, state, something to that effect. And this is going to alleviate that problem. We'll be able to put on there where the public, the council, Mr. Dove, Mr. Toops, myself will be able to look and say, they went out there and they seen that this problem was private property, or they went out there and found out that this is on a state highway, or they went out there and they found out that it wasn't a drainage issue, it was a sewer issue, and deferred it to the sewer department. Then that brings that accountability to the sewer department for us to follow up with. So I think this will solve a lot of those problems.
And I agree, because I get irritated when I get texts or emails saying, hey, I called this in 2 or 3 months ago. It's never been taken care of. I'm irritated with the fact that when I called it in, I'm thinking it has to be addressed, and it never been addressed.
Right.
And I didn't get any correspondence. But, you could CYA all you want, but that's not going to make the residents happy because their matter is still a problem.
Right.
So I just would like something back where I can at least try to communicate and address that, hey, this is not being done because of that problem, whatever. I mean, some of the matters that Ms. Thomas has discovered that there was some extensive electrical issues going on that utility companies has to address, and parts need to be ordered and all this kind of stuff. And, but I need to be told that so I can tell a resident or a sign not being done or whatever, because then other people try to encourage these people to call you and address problems that you have addressed. I don't neglect anyone, but I need some direct communication with you all just to make sure I can inform the resident, look, this is being done, this one needs to be addressed, and once this is done, I'll notify you whatever the situation is. But I like the direction you're going because I know every time I actually do something, it's done, and I appreciate that, man.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Navy. And you hit the nail on the head. I think communication is the key thing, and this system will streamline that communication. So that way, if someone requests something, we have a documentation of who and when it was requested, who was the person who followed up on it, and then we can give that information over. Y'all will be able to look at it and see it for yourselves.
Thank you. Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes, and to go back on that, we have our website, and we can go out and we can check work orders.
Yes, sir.
And I went there and we played with it a little bit, and it's assigned a number. And I think this number from a system that I used to work with another agency of the state, whereas this is a tracking number, and that tracking number actually follows equipment, personnel, and the follow-ups, and then we can actually go in. And this came about because, I'm going back to it, because sometimes you can have the passion to help some people, and they want to address their matters and prioritize them. And that's something we were discussing, is the fact that, we have to deal also with not just dealing with the problems that we have to document, but then there's prioritizing in reference to life, property, masses of property, and all of those things comes into being also. And I'm asking the public to be patient with us. We're all working to improve the situation. Of course, whenever I call you, you've actually done well with me. I've spoke with Mike, and we're working on it. I'm just doing this so we can inform the people that we are working on that.
Yes,
You know, what I mean, we're not dropping the ball, and sometimes, you know, what I mean, we have to admit that we have dropped the ball a couple times, but I won't say it's a failing grade that you have. You've done very well in your position. Thank you, sir.
Without any more lights, no further action required. Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, Mr. Michelle, second by Mr. Darren Gidry. All in favor? Motion carries.